Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the most important stories out there, and very few people are talking about this. I don't think anyone right now, aside from myself at this moment, and you, are talking about, well, you listening to this, are talking about the servers, Trump's servers, when he was in the executive branch. Now, there is a fantastic article in the New York Times that tries to refute Trump's claims of being under surveillance. Interestingly enough, when they try to refute the obvious, the truth, they highlight certain facts that are irrefutable, that you cannot twist into, oh, well, Trump is just engaging in hyperbole. President Trump is 100% right in a lot of the things, or almost everything he says, pertaining to the Durham probe, and the fact that the Michael Sussman indictment shows they were obtaining information from servers while he was in the executive branch. This New York Times article is fantastic. Court filings started a furor in conservative outlets, but their narrative is off-track. These latest alarmist claims on Trump's appear to be flawed, but the explanation is Byzantine, underlying the challenge for journalists in deciding what merits to come. Okay, I'm so sorry. It's just so difficult to read because it's such a public relations release. The latest alarmist claims about spying on Trump appear to be flawed, but the explanation is Byzantine. What? Underlying the challenge for journalists in deciding what merits coverage. Obviously, they're trying to say the challenge for journalists is that the challenge is how far can we go in terms of suspicion pertaining to what Democrats did against Trump? Can we actually make any claims like, these servers were being breached by people paid by Clinton? Could that possibly mean that Clinton paid these people to engage in surveillance of Trump and then possibly give a flawed narrative to government officials who then were possibly loyalists to the Democratic Party, or perhaps inclined to investigate Trump because they'd rather have a Democrat than a Trump Republican in the White House? So hit subscribe to this channel. The really important issue here, and 2 minutes and 57 seconds in, is that they talk about a contract that was existing. So an existing contract between the President Obama's administration and the tech executive that hired Sussman. So the tech executive hired Sussman, which is an interesting setup. The attorney working for the law firm with direct ties to the Democratic Party. But Sussman, the attorney, now this is quite Byzantine, but it's all an elaborate racket to set up Trump. So that's what they were trying to say, the New York Times. In this article, the tech executive stated in a statement, a spokesperson for the tech executive said that, quote, contrary to the allegations in this recent filing, so the indictment is accurate. But what they want to do is move the goalposts and try to paint a completely different picture. He was, the tech executive, apolitical. Well, then why was he working with, if he was apolitical, why was he working with an attorney paid by Clinton who worked for a law firm directly tied to Democrats? Okay? A tech executive wouldn't be painted as apolitical if they were working for a company engaging in a recount in Arizona, for example. But here, in a statement, a spokesperson for the tech executive said that contrary to the allegations in this recent filing, he was apolitical, did not work for any political party, and had lawful access under a contract to work with others to analyze DNS data, including from the White House, for the purpose of hunting for security breaches or other problems. Now, this does not address the fact he was working with an attorney who was paid by Madam Permanent Secretary. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. When I had trouble, hit subscribe to the stock market crash channel, read my article in the Federalist, predicting everything we're seeing now pertaining to the stock market. That's below in the pinned comment. I predicted the stock market crash that we're seeing in slow motion, and it's going to get exponentially worse, unfortunately. I predicted that in October of 2021. Read that article in the Federalist below. If you want to support my work, my Patreon is below. To my new Patreons, thank you. If you want to give a super thanks to this segment, you enjoy it, that's right below in the like and the share button. But ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe, tell your friends to subscribe to the stock market crash channel that's below in the pinned comment. I will eventually start doing a lot more work on that channel as well. This is very, very important because they were breaching servers in the executive branch while Trump was in office. And it was very difficult to read. The latest alarmist claims about spying on Trump appeared to be flawed. They're not even stating anything other than, oh, well, Trump Republicans are up in arms because the indictment shows that people were actually paid to obtain data on Trump, and this data emanated also from Trump's servers in the executive branch. They're alarmist. Let's disregard them. But the explanation is Byzantine. Well, it's a very complex explanation, and there's no direct proof that anyone ordered anything. Well, there is direct proof. Underlining the challenge for journalists in deciding what merits coverage. What the New York Times is saying is the following. If Hunter's laptop is lost, and there are actual incriminating emails that show pay-to-play schemes, he can't put two and two together because it could have been hacked by you-know-who. So, we can't say anything because we just don't have an admission of guilt from Hunter or Biden or anyone else. You can't be suspicious of what your lying eyes tell you when it pertains to Democrats. But with Trump, there could be an indictment. The indictment can actually say an attorney was paid by Clinton to obtain this information, along with tech executive and researchers, to obtain cybersecurity, internet data, cyber data, all this information in part from servers in the executive branch, in addition to his apartment and other locations, Trump. But God forbid you put two and two together that Clinton paid for this to take place, and the information, the Alpha Bank nonsense, was then given to James Baker, who says, by the way, the legal counsel at the FBI says that Sussman lied to him and didn't explain that he was being paid by Clinton. So, the FBI says, well, we were duped into accepting this information and then starting an investigation based on the information we accepted from people who were literally paid and working for Clinton, Trump's direct political rival. But the New York Times says it's a challenge for journalists in deciding what merits coverage. I mean, honestly, this whole thing with an incoming president, under surveillance by his direct political rivals. I mean, honestly, there's no signed letter stating that, and also there was a contract with President Obama's administration. I mean, he had a contract already. The contract never stated that they were to obtain information from servers in the executive branch. They were to obtain information from servers in the executive branch on an incoming presidential candidate, and then give that information to the Central Intelligence Agency or the Federal Bureau of Investigation to begin investigations on the incoming candidate. Do you see how like it's so easily? It's not Byzantine. It's so easily, like, you can see very easily what's taking place. Okay, you can. I mean, Fox News 20 years ago was perhaps on the wrong side of history, with definitely with Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld. But Fox News today is a lot more on the right side of history than MSNBC or CNN. The epicenter of corruption was George W. Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld. Those people, those Lincoln Project people, are now embedded within the Democratic Party. Okay, that's why they want no-fly zones and WW3 and all of that. They love that stuff. That's why they've turned democracy into a euphemism for whatever suits the Democratic Party or their political side. Okay, the Lincoln Project people of Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld are now socially liberal, conservative in terms of foreign policy, liberal Democrats. They've morphed into each other. The Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld people morphed into today's Democratic Party. That's why the Democrats have such an amazing racket, because they can get the furthest left ideologue to vote Democrat against his or her interests, knowing that the furthest left ideologue, or the person on the far left, will lose friends and family if they don't vote, because it's a gigantic cult. So you could be a liberal Democrat, lose friends and family. They'll disown you if you vote for President Trump. Great economy, great foreign policy. We see what's taking place right now. The sky literally is like everything's worse under mashed potato brains. And you still have tens of millions of Americans who think that Trump was installed by Vladimir. Let's just say Vladimir. Because now it's a big problem even talking about that issue. So I'm not even going to touch that issue really, unless I have to. But now, but it was Trump it's Trump that's installed by Vlad. But oh, by the way, Kiev is being and that country is being literally this. The worst thing that could ever take place is taking place under Biden's administration.